Have you ever went with your gut instinct, followed your intuition, only to find out that you got it wrong? Everyone talks about the value of intuition, but how do you know if that gut instinct is really true? And how can you come to rely on your intuition and use it to your advantage? Today, we're going to answer all of those questions. Coming up. Ooh, your intuition told you to watch this video. Is that true? Who knows? Who cares? The point is that you're here. So welcome to the Power of Quiet, where our purpose here is to take all the mystery out of finding happiness, having abundance, and being your true unlimited self. Now, if you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification, because what you'll find out is we do things completely different here than what you've seen on almost every other channel. Because what we do here is completely experiential, meaning we don't just talk about these topics. That makes about as much sense as talking about what an orange tastes like. You could talk about it, get all sorts of concepts and ideas, fill our mind up with information about what an orange tastes like. But all that intellectual knowledge does not give us the direct experience where we know exactly what that taste is. But once we know, we know. And there's no refuting that, because that knowing is very direct and intimate in our experience. Now, this is a good perspective to look at this topic of intuition, because sometimes it feels like we know it. We know that our intuition is right. It's telling us the right thing. When we meet someone, when we get that sense of, hey, this is a good person, or this is kind of a shady person, or we have an opportunity, maybe a business opportunity or an opportunity to do something that may get us to step out of our comfort zone. But our intuition tells us, hey, that's the right thing to do. Or, no, don't go there. And sometimes it's right, but sometimes that intuition seems to let us down, right? Sometimes we follow it and we end up getting burned. And therefore, sometimes we feel like we can't trust our intuition. We can't trust ourselves. And if you've ever experienced anything like this, then stick around. I'm going to show you how you can know for sure when you're talking to your intuition the right way and that it's leading you in the right direction. But first, let's examine exactly what intuition is. Now, I think the most precise definition of intuition that I've seen is that it's the process that gives us the ability to know something directly without analytic reasoning. And again, this brings us to this direct experience where we experience something directly. We know, and we know, versus what our mind thinks about it. And as we know, our mind is very fallible. It gets things wrong. It changes its perspective. It views things as one way in one moment, and then something completely opposite in another moment. So the mind is always changing and contradicting itself. We really can't trust that mind. Now, let's examine that mind, because that's the difference. It's in that definition. It's that direct knowingness versus the analytical thinkingness. Now, when we look at that mind, that thinking mind, that's how we experience it. It's this voice that talks to us, that plays in our head, right? Look at your mind right now. And isn't it just a sound in your head? A voice that's talking to you? Now, sometimes it says nice things, but most of the time, it's not so nice. It's pretty negative. There's a lot of complaining, a lot of worrying, a lot of judging, a lot of criticizing, a lot of dissatisfaction, restlessness in that mind, right? Like more than 90% of it is negative easily. And that being the case, who said that you had to listen to it? After all, where did this mind come from? This voice in your head. Did your parents give it to you? Did some supreme being bestow it upon you? Who knows? But what you cannot deny is the fact that it is your mind, right? It talks to you and only you. You're the owner of it. Now maybe, just maybe, you created it. And again, if you created this thing, this voice in your head, and 90+% of the time, it's being negative, dragging you down, getting you all stressed out, worried, depressed, who said that you had to listen to it? Who said that you had to let that voice push you around, especially when it belongs to you? Now, let's take a look at who are you? Now, who are you who's listening to your mind? Notice that. You see, you have this voice that's talking to you, but who's it talking to? Now, that part of you is silent. It has no body. It has no name. It has no beginning, no end. And it is perfectly still, perfectly present, unconditioned, just here, witnessing only. Now, rarely do we pay much attention to this aspect of ourselves, our beingness, our awareness, our presence here, this part of us that has no form, that has no identity. It just is. It's here, aware of all the commotion and noise that's going around us. And this part of us, I would argue, is far bigger than the mind. Because the mind itself, this voice, it's contained in this beingness. It's contained in this awareness, where this awareness has no limit. It extends far beyond what the mind is capable of. Now, the mind itself, when you really pay attention to those words that it throws at you at any given moment, notice those words, it tends to repeat over and over and over again. The same stories, the same ideas, the same problems, the same worries. In fact, if you look closely at that mind, you'll see that it dwells on the past. Everything that it tells you is just a repeat of something from the past. And really what it's repeating is everything that it's observed around. It just records everything in, and then it plays it back to you. So really, all the mind is a recording and playback machine. And therefore, the mind is a very limited instrument. That's why it cannot give us the direct experience, that direct knowingness. It just has ideas and concepts, which are all just recordings from the past. Now, when we are truly in tune with our intuition, what that really means is that we are in tune not with our mind, but with our greater beingness, the silent presence, which is the direct experience of true knowledge, of true knowingness. That's why when we are fully in touch with that, and we have those flashes of inspiration that don't come from the mind, that just happen in an instant, like boom, aha, wow, I know that to be true. This is something we've all experienced. And this is something that doesn't come from the mind. It comes from ourself. And here's the thing. If you've ever felt like you were following your intuition and it led you astray, I guarantee you weren't talking to your beingness. You were talking to that ego, that mind, and not really aware of it. So let me show you how you can guarantee that you are talking to the right thing and that you're getting answers great answers that are much more powerful, much more unlimited in scope, and gives you the ability to do far more than what you can do using your thinking mind. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this in a way that you can apply to in your life right now. All right, so just follow along. So think about something that you've been searching to find an answer for. Maybe it's a goal that you have for your life. Maybe to have more money, find the perfect mate, maybe even find your true purpose in life. And this thing that you've been searching to find the answer for, think about it. And how long have you been looking for an answer to that? Probably a while. Months, years, maybe even decades, right? Now, this explains what I said about what the mind is, just a recording and playback machine. This explains why you haven't been able to find the answer. Because if your mind only contains information that it's recorded, and you're asking it for information that it doesn't have, and you keep asking it over and over and over again for that information that it doesn't have, it's like looking in an empty file cabinet for an answer that isn't there. But you keep looking anyway. You keep looking at an empty file cabinet, and how silly is that? If it's empty and you keep looking for it, that's ridiculous. And that's why, after all this time, you still haven't been able to find that answer. I'm going to show you how to get that answer, get in touch with your intuition, and bring that question, what it is that you're looking for, into reality. That's how powerful you are in your beingness. All right, let me show you how to do it. Now, the first thing we're going to do is get perfectly clear that the mind doesn't have an answer. Right now, ask your mind if it has a solution to that, whatever it is that you're looking to answer, that situation in your life. Does it have an answer? Now, sure, it might have some ideas. Well, what about this? What about that? Or it might send you all over the place. Go look at this website. Go read this article. Go listen to this expert. And we've done that. We've looked over here, over there, everywhere for that answer, and we still don't get it. Right? And again, due to all the time that we've been looking for it and trying to find it this way, we still don't have an answer. Maybe this is telling us something. We're looking in the wrong direction. Now, check this out. This is how your mind works. Remember, it's mostly negative, right? So what happens after all this looking around and all this trying to succeed in finding the answer to this, and you don't get it? What does your mind do? What does it tell you? It tells you you're no good. It tells you to beat yourself up, right? All right? You haven't been able to figure it out? Beat yourself up. Now, how does that help you? Seriously. To beat yourself up. And you've been doing it, right? It doesn't help you at all. That's not going to get you the answer. And you're the one who's doing it on the suggestion of your mind, but you're the one who's in charge. Now, if you are beating yourself up about it, and that's not getting you a solution, and that's just feeding that mind, it's just getting you more negative and more dissatisfied, and sometimes even feeling like giving up, that's obviously not the direction that you want to go. But you've been going in that direction, right? And I'm pointing this out because this is where your mind takes you. Now, I challenge you to prove this different. Isn't this true? Anytime that you didn't know what to do, or you tried to go for a goal and you failed, What has your mind told you to do? To be hard on yourself, to beat yourself up, to get pissed off, to get frustrated, right? And what does this tell you? It's not a good idea to listen to the mind. All right, so let's start reversing this because this is a dead-end road. So first of all, notice, have you been beating yourself up over not being able to achieve this goal or find the answer that you've been looking for? And again, it doesn't help you to beat yourself up. And you're doing it, right? No one else is doing it here but you. Now you may be blaming your mind, but again, who's the owner of that mind? Who does that mind belong to? You're in charge. And this is good news because this means that you are in the driver's seat. You always have been. And now you can take command again by making a decision. Right now, decide. I'm going to be positive and love myself, or I'm going to be negative and beat myself up. What do you decide? I'm assuming you're deciding to be positive. And if that's the case, now could you let go of disapproving of yourself? Because if you're doing it, then you can let it go. It's just a decision, yes or no. And could you let go disapproving of yourself a little bit more? And could you let go disapproving of yourself even more? And could you let go disapproving of yourself even more? And could you let go disapproving of yourself even more? And even more. And again, how does it help you to disapprove of yourself? And does it feel good to disapprove of yourself? Seriously, is that something that you want to continue doing? Walking around, beating yourself up? And if you're doing it, now could you just let it go? And could you let go disapproving of yourself a little bit more? And could you let go disapproving of yourself even more? And even more. And even more. And even more. Now notice how you feel right now. Just notice if you feel a little bit lighter. You feel that difference? And that's showing you that now you're moving in the right direction. That's showing you now you're pulling yourself out of the pits and you're starting to make a positive difference right now. So could you let go of disapproving of yourself even more? You know, all that critical thinking, it's your decision. Could you let go of beating yourself up? Could you let go of putting pressure on yourself? And more. And it's just a decision. Don't make this out to be anything that's complicated. It isn't. It's just yes or no. And could you let go of disapproving of yourself? Yes or no? And could you let it go a little bit more? And could you let it go a little bit more? And a little bit more. And notice how you feel now. And all we're doing is we're just looking for this lighter feeling. That's it. We're keeping this nice and simple. Now let's take it a step further. Right now in this moment, could you give yourself a little bit of love and approval? Just because. No reason. Just because it's today. Just because you can. Just because positive doesn't hurt anything. Right? Could you give yourself some love and approval? And again, this is just a decision, yes or no. And could you give yourself a little bit more love and approval? And could you give yourself a little bit more love and approval? And a little bit more. And even more. And even more. And could you give yourself even more love and approval? And even more. And even more. And could you give yourself even more love and approval? And even more. Now, what are you experiencing now? You feel even lighter? Now, take a look at that question that you had. And just see if it's more possible to resolve it, to find that answer. And just see if it's more possible. You feel a difference? Do you feel more positive about it? And that is your intuition now talking to you. You see, it's just natural. When you get positive, you're coming from your beingness. And when you practice love, that is your own nature. Your beingness is love. That is the experience of being who you are. Therefore, when you are giving yourself love and approval, you are being this infinite, unlimited beingness. And now you're more in touch with your intuition. That part of you that just has answers to everything, that knows immediately, without question, without thinking. And this part is really opposite of the mind. See, this beingness, this silent presence of you, it's rooted in love. Whereas the mind, as you could see, is rooted in the opposite. It's so negative. In fact, it really thrives on negativity. That's why when we're coming from our mind, we have all this drama. And we like to focus on disasters. That's why when we're driving down the road and we see an accident, we almost can't help but want to slow down and watch. Because that's our mind for us. It feeds and focuses on negativity. And it's the opposite of our true self. And it's up to us to decide what we identify with, what we pay attention to, what we put our energy into. Do we put it into our thinking mind or into our beingness? Now, unfortunately, it is a very strong habit of ours to hold on to the mind. We think that we need it. And we've been brought up to believe that we need to develop the mind. And that is something that we must listen to, pay attention to, and follow. But we see where it leads us. So, let's again focus on our true self. Right now, could you just give yourself some love and approval exactly as you are, without wanting to change anything, without needing to resolve that question, have that answer, just as you are, even if you don't have that answer, even if you never do. Could you love yourself anyway? Could you just love yourself exactly as you are? And it's just a decision, yes or no. And could you love yourself a little bit more? And a little bit more. And a little bit more. And notice how this feels. And this feeling of love, this is a very direct experience. We can use this as an example of how intuition works and how we don't have to think about it. Because when you love, it is a very direct experience. Whether you love yourself or love somebody else or something else, you don't have to think about it. Like, say you have a pet or a child or a loved one, parent, anyone in your life that you truly unconditionally love, even if they make mistakes, do something wrong. You love them anyway, right? And you don't have to think about it. You don't have to convince yourself. When you see your dog, your cat, you're like, oh, I love you, come here, right? You don't have to think about it. It's just a very direct, intentional experience. And the more we pay attention to this aspect of ourselves, the more we realize that the intelligence that is had here is so far greater than the thinking mind. And pay attention to this very carefully. We can hang out in this silent place all the time. We don't need the mind. And all we have to do is continue examining that mind, discriminating. What is it? It's just a bunch of garbage regurgitated from the past. What do I need that for? What value does it have? All it does is get me confused. It obscures my connection with who I really am. And it's a source of all my stress, all my negativity, all my fear. But in my beingness, there is no fear. There's nothing to be stressed out about. And which would I rather identify with? And the more you look at this, the more this will lead you to dismantle that mind and expand your consciousness, where you realize, man, I've been playing a joke on myself all this time. I've never been limited. I've never been unhappy. And this is the truth. And this is what you prove to yourself when you move into this loving place. But like I said, it's a habit to hold on to that mind very, very deep. So it does take a little bit of effort, work to undo this habit. But trust me, doing this work is so worth it. Are you willing to do it? If so, then you're in the right place. Just keep following what we're doing here. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel and follow along. Everything we do here is about dismantling this mind and discovering something much greater. Now, if this resonates with you, if what we've done here rings as true to you in your experience, then let me know. You can let me know by leaving me a comment below or hitting the like button. And if this really resonates with you, probably resonates with a lot more. So let's share this method, expand it out into the world. So please share this video with your friends on your social media. I sincerely appreciate it and welcome aboard. This right here is the beginning of something great.